The Carvathi Dominion had ruled the spiral arms for longer than humanity had existed as a spacefaring species. Their fleets stretched across constellations. Their vassal races bowed with trembling reverence, and their history was one of blood and iron. They were old, proud, and merciless. So when whispers reached them of a young race from the third planet of a yellow star, one that dared to send envoys to claim a seat in interstellar councils, the Carvathi felt only disdain. "They think themselves ready to speak in our chamber?" sneered the overlord of the Carvathi high throne. "Send a message. Show them what it means to presume against their betters." And so the message was sent, not in words but in fire. A human diplomatic convoy, 3 civilian cruisers carrying ambassadors, scholars, and envoys of peace, was ambushed at the edge of Carvathi-controlled space. No warning, no negotiation, just beams that sliced hulls apart, shockwaves that tore cabins into silence, and laughter on the open comms. "Earth bleeds easy," one Carvathi captain boasted, his voice broadcast over human emergency frequencies. "So fragile, so soft. Let this be their first lesson. The Dominion has no patience for children at our table." The wreckage drifted for days, charred bodies frozen in their seats, banners of Earth still fluttering inside ruptured compartments. Of those who had boarded hoping to speak for peace, not one survived. The Carvathi broadcast their triumph, replaying it across their empire. For them it was not war. It was amusement, a cruelty meant to cement their reputation. And in the aftermath, their leaders mocked. "Earth will do nothing," they declared. "They are too civilized, too restrained. Their silence will be our victory, the mockery." Centuries of confidence the Dominion celebrated in their grand halls. Feasts were held where the slaughter was toasted. In Carvathi academies, lectures declared that humanity's reaction, if any came at all, would be meaningless. "Their fleets are young, their colonies scattered," one strategist told the assembly, "and they lack the hunger for conquest. Their nature is too bound by weakness, too tempered by hope. They cannot match the Dominion." Other empires watched carefully. Some agreed, nodding with cautious relief that it was not their turn to be humiliated. Others felt unease. The human silence stretched on. Earth said nothing. No threats, no retaliation, just silence. Yet in that silence there was something unsettling. Humans withdrew their envoys. Their colonies grew quieter. Their transmissions dwindled, as though Earth itself was holding its breath. For the Carvathi it was proof of weakness. They cower, their generals laughed. Their stillness is surrender. What they did not realize was that Earth's silence was never surrender. It was waiting. The turning, when silence broke, decades passed. And then, in the deep void, the silence cracked. First came whispers, lost Dominion patrols at the edge of mapped stars, stations reporting shadows before going dark. Traders spoke of vast shapes in the void, fleets that did not match any registry. Then came the signals. Across Carvathi space, communications filled with a single message. "You killed our voices. Now you will hear our laughter." The Dominion dismissed it as psychological warfare. But then entire border fleets vanished. Outposts were found reduced to molten glass. Carvathi warships limped back with hulls torn open, their crews whispering of weapons that burned brighter than suns. Humanity had not forgotten. Earth's fleets emerged from the black like storms born of silence. Not patrol squadrons, not exploratory craft, but armadas, each one larger than anything the Dominion had believed possible. Dreadnoughts shaped like jagged mountains, carriers so vast they carried cities within. Swarms of smaller ships that moved with impossible precision. They came without negotiation, without mercy. Their comms carried only a single sound: laughter, not joyous, not mocking, but cold, hollow, and unending. A sound that crawled into the marrow of every Carvathi who heard it. The Flood. Retribution in fire. The first battles lasted hours. Dominion admirals, confident in centuries of supremacy, deployed their fleets with pride. Thousands of ships locked formation, weapons charged, their commanders boasting that the children of Earth would break against the steel of empire. But the humans did not break. They moved like no fleet had before, shifting formations mid-battle, weaving strikes with impossible coordination, using technologies the Dominion had dismissed as primitive myths. Their weapons did not just pierce hulls, they unmade them, reducing proud battleships to burning slag in single salvos. Carvathi commanders screamed in disbelief as wave after wave collapsed. Entire fleets were annihilated in minutes. Stations, some that had stood for centuries, fell silent as Earth's ships rained fire from orbit, and through every channel the laughter continued. It was not the laughter of individuals. It was recorded, layered, mechanical. The sound of Earth itself laughing at the empire that thought it untouchable. Carvathi soldiers broke before they fired. Civilians cowered, covering their ears as the transmissions echoed across their worlds. Their empire, once the unchallenged power of the galaxy, began to crumble. The collapse. Empires ending in fear. The Carvathi High Throne demanded retaliation, but there was nothing left to command. Every fleet sent forward was reduced to wreckage. Every fortress world burned. Then humanity struck deeper. They did not simply retaliate against the Carvathi. They dismantled them. Worlds that had prospered for centuries were shattered in hours. Cities were erased in storms of kinetic fire. Moons were broken apart to deny shipyards. Colonies that had stood for generations saw Earth's armies descend like iron hurricanes, and always, always the laughter. Other empires watched in frozen silence. The Dominion had ruled for thousands of years. They had broken countless species, crushed rebellions without hesitation, mocked every plea for mercy. Yet against Earth's vengeance, they were nothing. Their centuries of dominance ended not in glorious battle, but in terror and ruin. Carvathi survivors whispered of the human ground forces. Armored soldiers that moved like machines. Drones that descended like locusts. Orbital cannons that could turn continents to ash. But worse than their weapons was their silence in person. On the ground, humans said nothing. They fought without words, without threats, without cruelty. They were efficient, precise, unstoppable. The only sound their enemies ever heard came after, when Earth's fleets resumed broadcasting their endless laughter. The end. A galaxy changed forever. When the Dominion finally collapsed, there was no treaty, no surrender. Their empire, once spanning spiral arms, became a graveyard. Worlds that had known their banners for centuries were left in ruins. Their language, once spoken across the stars, became a whisper of warning. The humans did not occupy. They did not enslave. They simply destroyed, and when the work was done, they vanished back into the dark. In the aftermath, silence returned. But it was no longer the silence of patience. It was the silence of a galaxy afraid to breathe. Across every empire, every council, every station, one lesson spread: never provoke Earth. The humans had shown patience beyond comprehension, enduring insult and slaughter without reply. But when their silence broke, when their laughter began, it did not end until an empire that had lasted for centuries was dust. Now, when alien diplomats gather, they speak of it in hushed tones. The Carvathi had mocked humanity's weakness. They had laughed at Earth, but it was Earth's laughter that ended them. And so the galaxy remembers, with terror in its bones, humanity's patience is infinite, but so too is their vengeance.